So, hello everyone, I'm Kerry, and today's session will be on doing a trial class. So I'm going to try my best to finish in 25 minutes because, there's only one topic to cover, so I'm pretty sure I can finish it. And if you've been to one of my coaching sessions before, I'm sure I would have seen you. I think the only person I recognize is Miguel, so we're all good. But I'm going to change my background just to make everyone think a little bit, and then I'll explain why I chose this as my background in a bit towards the end of the session. Okay, so let's begin. Oh, someone else is from Durban. Fatima, yes, it is pouring. It's crazy. Okay. All right, so I've changed my Zoom settings. It wasn't a good idea. Now I've got to admit people. Oh gosh. Okay. So in the meantime, let me just share my notes. Okay, so I usually do a session with a lot of information on marketing and then making a video to talking to parents and then also doing a trial class. But today I'm just going to do preparing for a trial class. So we're just going to keep it at one topic. Okay. And I'll try and make it interactive, but let's see how we go. Okay, great. Okay, so before preparing for a trial class, what is very important in your preparation is communication with parents. So I'm sure some of you have experienced this. Communication with parents is very important and can be very difficult with parents who don't speak English as a first language. So yeah, I see a lot of us are from South Africa. Durban, Cape Town, I'm seeing in the chat, Mahindra's from the UK. Someone else is in Natal. Okay, so this session will help you if you are from South Africa, because this is my experience as a South African, how I've managed to find students as a South African and how to communicate with parents. Awesome. There's someone from the US. Great. Okay. All right. So can anyone think of some important things to establish before the trial class, before you do your first class with potential students? Can you write in the chat if you can think of anything that's very important to establish? You can write one thing that you think is the most important. Okay, so Cece says age, level, and goal of the student. Very important. Student's level of English, Christine. Yes, if you're not teaching English, that's also important to know, because you can't. I teach science, and I do also teach English, but I need to know their level of English before I can prescribe a good textbook for them for science. So it is also important, even if you're teaching maths, you have to use difficult words, and it's good to know the English level. And that's if you are mainly teaching Chinese learners or learners who have English as a second language. Emma says a rough idea of their level from the parent. Yes, a rough idea. And the reason why sometimes you only get a rough idea is because I've noticed some parents like to say their learners brilliant at English and they're at this level, and then you teach them and you realize they actually need to do a textbook maybe a year below that would suit them better. Their interest and enthusiasm, Alan says, yes, that is important to know their interests, especially before a trial class. I like to know their interests, and I can incorporate that into how I teach their first lesson, which will give them a good first impression. Okay, yes, Emma has just said that. Great. You want to introduce yourself? Yes, you want to introduce yourself to a parent. And I generally like to keep it professional, but also friendly, because you are a teacher and you're going to be teaching their children. Okay, I'm still admitting people. Sorry if I pause every now and again. Miguel says the cost per lesson. This is very important. Okay, so let's go through them. Sometimes parents might, or most of the time, parents want to know what book you're teaching from. And they might ask you, can you teach this thing that I found online or this book? And it's also important to establish that you only teach what you teach. If you have decided to teach from a particular curriculum, that they know this. Okay. Yes, the curriculum. Okay, so I mentioned that sometimes parents talk up their child's English skills. I've noticed generally most do. So just keeping that in mind when you're going into a child class. Especially if a child hasn't done English lessons in a while, they'll need a recap. If they've only been speaking Chinese for the last few weeks, they're going to need to do basic initially. Asking price straight away. Some parents do. They ask the price straight away. They want to know what the price is. You just get parents who do that, and that's okay. So that's where discussing your rates before your trial class is important. Okay, some parents might think you are too expensive, and then it's better to know that before you do a trial class, because then you don't have to do a trial class, and you can say, okay, thanks. Those are my rates, and no problem. You can negotiate, but I've noticed some parents will just say that you're too expensive, and they'll move on. Okay. You normally find out from the parents after a while if they're negotiating or if they just think you're too expensive, and then just move on. Okay, so negotiating is part of the Chinese culture. So you might have to negotiate and set your rate a little bit higher than what you'd settle on, which would be maybe your normal rates. Okay, and I do teach a little bit about setting rates, but I'm going to do that, I think, in a different coaching session. Okay, I just want to try and get everything done today in the 25 minutes. So when you are doing a trial lesson, something that is important is showing off your skills or your passion for teaching on the first trial class. So, knowing the student's English level, knowing what you, and communicating what books you use. You can also communicate the chapter you're going to start on. That's also important. I do that often. So if they want to pre-read, they can pre-read for that lesson. And then obviously being well prepared. So knowing the material, knowing what is the best way to teach maybe that lesson. I often do a trial lesson, like I repeat the same trial lesson to introduce the book or the curriculum that I teach, and I'll just redo that trial lesson. So knowing it really well is also a perk. And then I often will have an introduction to the book, maybe a textbook cover, and then yeah, you can do some classroom rules. Keep it brief though, if it is your trial class. And then what you will do, your aims for that day. So I know it's like, well, if you're doing a 20-minute trial class, how can you have these aims, such a short lesson? I try and make sure I cover a basic concept in the trial class. So making sure that at least one concept is covered, that I know this child is going away and they've learned at least one thing. Okay. I'm just going to mute. There we go. So also really nice thing to do is conclude your lesson nicely so that you can see if your learner has gained that skill or that knowledge. Okay. I'm just going to mute a few people. I see there's a background noise. So something that's also really nice to do in a trial class is to show the learners what's coming up. Okay, so if they've enjoyed what they've learned, you can suggest, okay, we are going to do this next week. In the next few weeks, we will cover, and you can maybe have the chapters coming up after each slide. Like you can just screenshot or however you want to do it, just have a brief overview of what you will learn in those lessons. Sometimes homework is good. So if you know that if you've been in communication with a parent and you've sent them a textbook, you could also send homework. And then another thing you could do is I would, if the learner really, if they seem to really enjoy a lesson, you could also say, well, I do teach science as well. Let's say you're doing a maths lesson. You could say, I do teach science as well. If this lesson went well, we could do science together. Or I do teach English as well. And these are the kinds of things we learn in our classes. So in case the learner really enjoyed it, you know, their parent might want to take you on for another, your sub-subject. So that's just to bear in mind, an idea you could do in your trial class. Or you could even talk about a course that you're doing in the winter holidays or the summer holidays. Okay, so I want to ask, if we are wanting to create a really nice trial lesson, the best thing you can do is motivate your learners to want to learn. So what are the best ways that you motivate your learners in your classroom, in your online classroom? And you can type in the chat if you have some ideas. I always love to share these ideas. Games, yes. Alana says games. Hope I'm saying your name right, Alana. Connect class subject to the yes, dress up as a hero. That is so cool. I've never thought of that. Use a playground. Be an encourager. Rewards, yes. Rewards, and games and rewards go hand in hand. So I love that, Christine, say connect class subject to their interests. Yes. So if you can find a way to kind of weave in their interests into what you're talking about, and that is a lot easier to do in English than in science, then you can even come up with a game or something like dressing up as their hero. But you can incorporate whatever you're going to conclude. You can incorporate their interests into that as well. Okay, so I did say games and rewards. I'm just going to touch a little bit on a game and a reward, because sometimes you do want to reward them, but you also want to know if they understood what you taught. So I found this, I don't know if anyone's used WordWall before. It's like a website that has like so many quizzes. You can just type in a topic or a theme that you're teaching and then type quiz. And there's so many quizzes that you can do from different levels, and you can use that as a fun way to say, okay, you've worked so hard, do you want to play a game? And then they can be like, yes. And then this game, or you can go through a game with them and it tests their knowledge, but it's also a fun way to end the lesson. Then there's Top Marks, which is also really cool. Those games are more creative. And then there's Games SL, but there's also another one called Tiny Tap for younger learners, which I really like. And then PBS. So there's obviously a lot of cool things, cool websites that you can use, and also Koala Go, which I actually need to discover a bit more. Yes, WordWall is awesome for games. And then other creative ways to use rewards, you could have, for example, a cake, just a picture of a cake, and then ask them to decorate the cake. So you could ask them to put decorations on the cake, or this is a tree. I know on Classing you can use a pizza. I'm not sure if there's anything else you can do. You could have an Easter egg for Easter. You could have, so this is a website where you can create a card, and at the end of the lesson you can So those aren't very educational games, but they're just fun rewards to use at the end of your trial class. And then something that's also important is after the trial, giving feedback and asking for feedback. So staying in contact if you feel the student could be at a higher level or a lower level, saying that. Maybe giving a short sentence about their skills and what you enjoyed about the lesson, and then asking if they enjoyed the lesson. Yeah, and if it's a good trial class that you've been well prepared for, then you generally will have that student as an onboarding student. So yeah, I always ask for feedback. Did Jeffrey like the lesson? How did he find it? Was it up to his level or something like that? So yeah, that would be a good way to end your trial class. And then also you can send the lesson plans to go ahead or whatever, however you communicate that to your parents. Okay. So I'm going to leave a bit of time for Q&A. Let's just check the time there. Okay, so we've got enough time. Okay, so I know I spoke about mainly a trial class, but I'm happy to answer other questions because I do see we've got a bit of time. So if anyone has a question, and you can unmute or you can type in the chat if you want. Fire away.
Can you suggest rates?
Yes, so I would say, what are you teaching?
Well, anything. I haven't started yet, but I usually specialize in business or specifics like medicine or chemistry or mathematics.
So I teach science and English. What you could do is I have my rates for a lower grade English. So English kind of go around this. So go English at a lower grade, grade 2 or grade 3 at $30 for 1B1.
You're not talking about the South African market, eh?
No,
Okay, all right.
because I teach internationals. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm teaching mainly Chinese learners. So that would be my rate for them. Then if you are going to do English, preparing them for a test that they need, like the IELTS or something more niche, I'd say a test because I don't know, a test seems like if you're going to be preparing a learner for an exam, you can charge higher. That seems to be the trend. Then maybe you want to charge $40 for 1B1.
Okay.
Or so that would be an English test. Or if you're going to do higher grades, maybe grade 6 and up, so your high school level, you can charge $40 for 1B1 or even $50 for 1B1, depending on if you're able to get a 1B1 student at that rate. If you're going to do a group class, so I currently have a science low level, so grade 1 science, very young. That is my group class with 2 learners. So they are each paying $15 because it's quite a young grade, but that's $15 each for 25 minutes.
Wow, it's great. And they don't complain. They don't want to bargain.
No, because I've spoken to them and I've said that's the rate.
Right.
Someone has a question. So you said you had the same trial, Emma. Okay, so these are rates. Let me actually go back. So, because Annie answered these rates per hour. This $30 1B1 is 50-minute rates. I do 50 minutes. Okay, these are like your 50-minute rates for 1B1. If it is 1B2, that price per student you can drop. So that's the incentive. If they want a lower rate, you can say, well, we can do a lower rate at in a group class. We just need to find a partner.
Right.
So you can just find a partner for them. So if you can advertise and find a partner, or if they know someone, then you can make it at a lower rate. Yeah. So that's also nice. Group class, you can get the same amount, or they paying lower, but you're getting more per hour, which is really nice, or per 50 minutes. Then so this is one of my group classes here. It's grade 1, it's $15 each, and it's 1v2. So I come away with $30 for my grade 1 science class, and that's for 25 minutes. So that's pretty decent.
Yeah,
That's pretty decent. So if you can get a few of those group classes, like if you do 1v3 even, you could charge maybe $12 per student. So that would be $36 in total. So I'm just like saying, like, you can get a lot more for a group class, but generally speaking, for lower level English, it would be a lower rate. And then yeah, I think with English, I find it's harder to charge high because there's a lot of English teachers.
Yeah.
So I actually do chat about rates as well in one of my sessions. Do you suggest doing an English level test for the trial lesson and then play a learning game at the end? You could do I find an English level test for a trial lesson might not be as fun, but if you can do it in a way that's a quiz and just to see their level, that would be good. You could do that. I just don't, at least have some of the lesson where you're teaching a concept. That's what I would do. But yeah, if you communicate that you're going to do a test to the parents to see their level, then that can work as well. Okay. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask out loud?
When you do the two students in one group, do you have a problem like finding that maybe one student has a higher level than the other one?
Sometimes that happens. Let me just think if that's happened. Yeah, so sometimes they aren't on the exact same level. And then I would suggest maybe they go into a lower grade, and then you find the parent or you find a student that's more suitable to their level. And then you can do like 2 group classes. So
sorry, yes.
It is a bit of a mix and a match, finding good matches. I had a situation where I had someone join, but then they didn't gel with a group, so they didn't want to carry on joining the class because I think it was too difficult for them. So yeah.
I was thinking about the negotiation. When you, for example, if they want a lower rate and you say, well, you need to get somebody else to come with you in a group, and they bring anybody, and then they are not at the same level. So what do you do then?
You would have to stay in communication. I'd say stay in communication. Say, let's find a student for your child, and they must also look. So they must put on their social media to look for students. So I just want to answer, I see a question here from Carla. How do you find your science students in China? What curriculum are you following with them? I find them through WeChat groups. I post on WeChat groups. And the curriculum that I'm following is a US curriculum. It's from Ohio, and it's called Closer Look. So it's Ohio science, and the books are Closer Look. I think they're based off the Wales curriculum. Twinkle has leveling games you can download that gives a basic idea of their level. I use that. That's great, Leona. That's amazing. Yeah, that would be a good way to also end a trial class, or to say, oh, let's play a game and let's see your level. So what rate would you charge for IELTS in the group trial class? I can't say like exactly because I don't teach IELTS, but I'm pretty sure because IELTS is a test that most learners have to pass in order to get into a school, or so that's you teaching IELTS. It's in preparation for them to do a test. So you could charge higher than $30, definitely, maybe $40 for IELTS for 1v1. And then
For now,
I would say around that, and then you could lower that for a group class. So if you do 1v2, then you could drop it per, maybe they would pay $35 each. If it's 1v3, maybe $30, depending on how you do your dropping of your prices, like that. That's what I would say, but I've never taught for IELTS, so I can't say exactly. How do you go about trials for groups? For groups, same as normal, but then you do need to be aware that if these learners, if the dynamics don't work, and with groups, it's very important to communicate the rules, because that's when you get people talking with their mics unmuted, and it's on online groups, you do have to manage them a bit, like ask them individually for an answer and that kind of thing. So what was the question again? I think you asked about oh gosh. So you just do a normal trial lesson for groups. Yeah. Oh, Yolanda asked on which WeChat groups. Just a few groups that I'm on. Yeah, you can just post on those groups. I pretty much post on all the groups I'm on. Okay, so Nagina says, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, sorry.
It's Nagina. It's okay.
Nagina, sorry.
That's fine. That's all right.
You want to teach IGCSE maths, but I'm not sure how much to charge. Well, that is a higher grade. Those are your higher grades. In South Africa, I compare it, and it's equivalent to like our grade 8, 9, 10. So you would charge higher for maths. Yeah, maybe also similar to like an English test, $40 around there for 1v1. Okay. You can even charge $50 if you are very confident with your subjects. What percentage of trial students become paying students? Annie asked. I'd say now most of my trial students do become paying students. Yeah, maybe 70% of them, 70 to 80% of them. For Chinese students, do you use View for lessons? Alan, I use Zoom. I pay for Zoom because I just find it so much easier to use. I just don't know how to, like, I use View if I have to. But now I've used.
Zoom available to Chinese students?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never had a problem. Yeah, I think every now and again there's a student who doesn't have Zoom, and then I just say download it, or and then they figure it out. Yeah, I just want to check the time. Yeah. Okay, so we've reached the end. Sorry, I can't answer everyone's question.
From what you guys are saying, I get the impression that you guys are charging for trial classes, and we were kind of trained to not charge for this. Can you please elaborate a little more?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Say that again.
Sorry, I kind of have the impression from everybody who's giving the input that you guys charge for trial classes. Like I thought that trial classes were supposed to be free.
The sound is not bad, is not great, CC. So did you want to maybe type? Yeah, the sound isn't great. I'll answer CC's question. And then I think we'll say goodbye because we reached the end. Do you guys charge for trial classes? CC, I offer a 50% discount, but I only do trial classes for 25 minutes. So whatever your rate is for 25 minutes, halve that rate if you're going to do 50% off. You can do it for free. You can offer a trial class for free. I generally don't. Yeah, I've done that before. And then I just found that people would join, or like they were a bit flaky. They would join my trial class, and then I had a student that the mom would say she's very interested, and then she didn't follow up. So I just do it 50% off now. Yeah, but you can do it for free if you know they're serious and they will join your classes. Then yeah. Okay. I hope that was helpful. Yeah, sometimes with parents, they're all different. We all know this, so like it's nuanced. You can get a feel if you feel like they're serious, they're quite interested in their learner's education or their child's education, and they communicate that, and they're quite detailed and specific. And it's quite clear as well from the trial class that they're going to book with you. Or talking up to the trial class that they're going to book a lesson and they really like you, then maybe you do want to offer a free class. So you can have a set rule and how you want to do it, or you can, yeah, you can do it for free if that suits you. I know that a lot of teachers do offer free trial classes. Yeah. Okay, hope that's helpful, guys. And it was nice to meet everyone, even though we didn't get lots of time together, but hopefully we do another coaching session. Cool. Okay, hope to see you all again. Bye. Thank you. Cheers.